Good morning. It is Friday, February the 10th. It's 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Going to run through the morning charts. We got some pretty good price action going on this morning. Looks like things are starting to get shaken up a bit. And we'll start off with the US dollar index. This is the 4-hour chart, and we've zoomed back all the way till November since the last kind of real push up. If we zoom out a little bit further, you can see we're at a potential pretty major key support level, and the overall trend is up. So we had the market come down, the US dollar come down, it broke out to the upside, had its really first real pullback here, and then we had another run, and we're in this next kind of major kind of pullback, and we've settled down into the support zone, which is this previous cluster high and the consolidation here before it broke out to a new high. So that's where we've been floating around for a while, about 3.5 weeks, and we're starting to see a move up this morning. Nothing huge, and we're still at a short-term resistance level, which is through the middle of this previous congestion in the dollar, and the real resistance level for the dollar is still quite a ways up. It's twice as much as the move that we've seen this morning. So still have some work to do for the dollar, but if it can break above this upper red line here, then I would anticipate we see a pretty broad market sell-off and commodity sell-off. But until then, the US dollar is still grinding down, trying to form a bottom down here, and we'll see how long that takes to unfold. Now zooming in on it a little bit, you can see this is a 4-hour candlestick. So the last 4 hours we've seen have been trading higher, and of course if we go and look at stocks and commodities for the last 4 hours, more or less they are trading sharply lower. So let's just take a look at crude oil. Rising dollar is usually tough on commodities, and you can see here the last 4-hour candle in crude oil really pulled back. Yesterday morning I was looking at excuse me, at the US crude oil, how it had this little torch, kind of lit the torch up into a resistance zone, and then we had that sharp pullback and it drifted right back up, made a new high there. Now this morning we're seeing crude oil really peel back off here, and now the question is, it looks as though it's topped. Now we'll see if we get a little bit of a bearish price action here, or pause, something similar to what you'd see over here, or depending how it works, a breakdown, you see a move back up on light volume more or less, and then see sellers step in. We'll be looking to take a short position in crude oil, as I do have a potential target for the 96 and possibly 94 level on the downside. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. If I just zoom into the 10-minute chart of the crude oil and zoom out a couple trading sessions, you can see more or less the bounce that started to form here. There's several different ways that can unfold. We had more or less, you could say we had a first shoulder, a head, and now we'll see if we get some type of shoulder that kind of just really just lingers and drifts over like this into more or less a resistance zone, which will just be previous pivot highs and pivot lows, and just the average price between this topping pattern, and usually it'll drift up into this level, usually pierce it a little bit and go deep into a resistance zone, and from there we'd be looking for a short opportunity to go down to the 96 and possibly all the way down to the 94 and possibly even 92 level. So that's kind of where we're looking at crude oil. Let's take a look at gold. Okay, one other quick thing, just looking at this chart visually for crude oil, just kind of want to point out, usually moves tend to be approximately the same length. So you can see here this kind of sell-off comes down. You just look at this morning's sell-offs, it's roughly the same size, not quite as big. It still has some potential to go lower, but overall you usually get thrusts in approximately the same length. So just looking at this chart, and if we zoom in a little bit, let me just zoom into both here. Usually what you see near a short-term market bottom, or any bottom in general, but we're on the short-term time frame, so it's a short-term bottom, you see a strong move down, and then you start to see these bounces where it bounces up, comes down, makes a lower low, bounces up, comes down, makes a lower low, bounces up, makes a lower low, and all this time it's making these new lows. We're seeing volume really kind of dissipate and dry up, and that's usually when the market starts to put in a bottom for whatever time frame you're looking at, and then it'll build a base, and then it can break out to the upside and your upside target. Your first target would be more or less the previous high for it to try and break, and that's where it looks as though we're coming in now. If we just zoom in here, I still think there could be a little bit lower on crude oil this morning. Overall, we've got a move down, a little pause here, another move down, pause, move down. It's not really getting really volatile yet. We really want to see it start to put in spikes where it really makes quick bounces and makes new lows, and we want to see volume dry right up. Again, we're in pre-market here, so volume isn't very heavy yet. It's not during regular trading hours. But you can see volume has been climbing as price has been going down, and that is a sign. You see how volume is going up and price is going down. That's confirming sellers are in control, and until we really see bottoming price action where it becomes choppy and keeps making new lows, and we'll see volume actually start to dry up, this could happen earlier or later this morning. We'll keep our eyes for that. We'll probably see some type of a bounce in crude oil, and again, I'm looking for more or less a move that just kind of goes up that's bearish, and then we'll be looking for a possible short and to try and play it for a quick downdraft to the downside. And of course that could end up being, you know, a little mini head and shoulders pattern. There's a lot of different ways you can view things. It could be a double top, could put in a triple top, but again, this is kind of what we're looking at is the general price action and the volume. Looking at gold real quick. Gold is really coming down, trying to test its previous lows. If we just look at this chart, I pointed out beginning of this week, I showed how this short-term bottom was starting to kind of come into play here. And again, just like I pointed out on crude oil, you got to move down, another move down, another move down. You get these multiple lows, and more or less it happens on lighter and lighter volume, which is what we saw there. And then I pointed out in pre-market, it looks like it's going to put in some type of short-term bounce, which it did, and that's when Bernanke spoke. Now it's starting to round its way back down. In the big picture here, I'm looking for an ABC correction, so we get a 3 wave. And again, as mentioned yesterday, we want to see a lower high, and we want to see this lower low, and that is a healthy pullback within an uptrend, and it shakes out a lot of the bulls, because a lot of people who are just trading technical things say, well, it's got a lower high and a lower low, because here's the previous low and now it's lower. It's now in a downtrend, so once you break this pivot low, a lot of people get flushed out, and it creates a buying opportunity down here, which in my opinion, this kind of big surge that we had, this is going to act as a major support zone, and hopefully the market flushes out and we could take a long position in here, and we could see gold continue to move up. Silver is a little bit different of a chart pattern. It's been just holding this kind of topping pattern. I'd like to really see it break below this 33 and really wash all the way down to 32 or 31. If it doesn't, I think entering anything above 33 has a little more risk, because if you buy it above 33 and it breaks 33, there's going to be a lot of orders triggering. There's been just a lot of pivot lows here, which a lot of people are going to be putting their stops in, and as soon as it breaks this red line, you're going to see orders flood in the market. And silver isn't that heavily traded, so when market orders hit silver, it drops very sharply, and I would anticipate it drops down to the 32 or 31 area. Now, taking a look at the SP 500, we're seeing a pretty good sell-off this morning with the rise in the dollar. Just want to point out the last couple trading sessions, the market's been grinding higher, and it's been doing the same thing kind of day after day. It's you see a morning sell-off, and then once it's done, the momentum's done, you see the market kind of drift and hold up for the rest of the day. And then not yesterday, but on Wednesday, we saw another morning sell-off, drifted up into the close, and then yesterday we saw a morning sell-off, drifted up into the close. Pretty much the same thing. It's just inching its way higher, just grinding its way up and up and up. You can see the strong volume is strong selling in the morning, and then it's light volume rise in the afternoon. Today is Friday, so I would anticipate lighter volume into the afternoon again. And we're going to get a big gap down so far this morning. The S&P is trading around the 34, right around here, the 34 level, 34.20. So we're going to get a big gap down. I wouldn't be surprised. We might see initial selling in the morning, but I think once 9:45 comes around and the market kind of clears the chamber of all the market orders sitting there and everybody in a panic, once that stops, then we could see the market fade up and try and fill most of that gap. And then from there, it might actually be, we'll have to see how it gets up there and what happens, but it's probably an opportunity unfolding that the market is starting to put in a top. A big gap down this morning, depending what the volume ratio is. We'll see if it's signaling that the market is topping, but we may be looking to go long the S&P this morning on this gap down for at least a gap fill, if not a nice swing trade for the markets to continue to grind higher for quite some time. Now zooming back on the SP 500, I pointed this out yesterday, and we've got key pivot levels here. If we break, I pointed out this pivot low, this pivot low, this pivot low here, we're going to probably see some pretty good sell-off in the market. This pivot low here, this bottom one, we have yet to break. We're trading around, we dipped all the way down to about 34 this morning on the SP. So we've broken these previous trading session lows, and the volume has really picked up in pre-market trading, and you can see it. I'll show you on the futures chart. All the stops got run, came down to the 34, and I wouldn't be surprised if we come back up to the 35 or 35.50 area in the next couple trading sessions. Now let's just take a look at the futures chart so you can see how it's been moving in the 24-hour time frame. So this is a 24-hour chart showing you pre-market, regular trading hours, and post-market. And the big surge on the left-hand side is Friday's economic news that came out. Market jumped up. Since then, we've really seen the market. We had these pivot lows here all put in place. Yesterday morning we came down and broke a couple of these short-term pivot lows that happened in overnight trading, and a lot of times they will get taken out. The key pivot lows are the ones that happen during regular trading hours, which are these ones here. So anyways, we saw this little sell-off yesterday morning, another move up, and in overnight trading you can just see it's been non-stop bleeding for the market. It's just been running down and down and down. It's starting to form a broadening formation, showing there's instability, and it's kind of had, it looks like it's had a blowout bottom where everybody just finally gave up, and we saw some pretty major pivot lows here broken, and that's where the big volume spike was. It broke this previous low that happened during regular trading hours, and those are the major pivots that actually count, and when you see big stops, stop orders get triggered. Anyways, that's, you can see the volume spike. That's where we are now, and it went into an oversold condition, and we came right down into more or less a support zone, which is these previous congestions. So we've got the previous Friday congestion, we've got overnight trading there, we had the following session more or less pivot there, and the next session also pivot there. So that's kind of right where we're trading, and I wouldn't be surprised if we just kind of move forward if we see the market work its way back up into the 1348 for the futures, 1352, somewhere up into there, and depending how it gets there, we could see the market be starting its correction here. But overall, we are going to be oversold this morning, and I got a feeling it'll be an entry point for at least a 1 or 2 day move up, because right now the momentum is up, so any strong selling that hits the market, we're still seeing buyers come in. Even if the momentum is stalling out, generally when you get one big wave down, usually there's enough energy to pull it back up most of the way, and depending what happens up here is going to signify if the market's going to go higher or if it's going to roll over and start a downdraft. So anyways, that's it for this morning. Be ready for a long entry in the SP 500, and we'll be looking for a short entry in crude oil at this time. So I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye bye.